Welcome to Short Movie Channel. The movie starts with Jason talking to his friend Craig. Craig tells him he's going to send him a package of drugs to his house because he can't bring it with him on the plane. Jason refuses at first, but Craig says he's already sent it, and it'll only stay at his place for one day until he gets back. Just then, Jason's mom, Sylvie, walks into the house, so he hangs up. Then we cut to John, Jason's father. He's just leaving his company and sees one of his workers, James, still working late. John goes over to help him out, and they chat for a bit. James says he's been working there for 3 weeks. John jokes with him, and James asks for a raise. Meanwhile, Jason sees the mail truck stop in front of their house. He realizes it's the drug shipment Craig told him about. He takes the package inside and heads to his room to check it out. But to his shock, as soon as he opens it, there's a loud knock at the door. It's the narcotics police. Jason panics and jumps out the window to escape. A chase begins, but it ends with the police catching him. At the same time, John gets home to celebrate the birthday of his daughter from his second wife, Annalise. Suddenly, his ex-wife Sylvie calls and tells him their son Jason has been arrested. He rushes over to Sylvie's place, and she tells him they're treating Jason like a criminal and that she doesn't know anything about what happened. John asks if Jason is registered under her name or his so he can check on him. Sylvie says Jason is listed under her name. John heads to the station, but the officers at the front desk won't tell him anything. Then their lawyer shows up and John asks about the case. The lawyer explains that it's a federal case. The amount of drugs they found on Jason makes it a trafficking charge. Jason already confessed that Craig told him he was going to send the drugs to the house. The lawyer adds that Craig got caught sending the drugs and agreed to cooperate with the police to get a lighter sentence, by turning in whoever he was working with. Sylvie gets emotional and asks if their son is really going to prison and for how long. The lawyer says drug trafficking sentences depend on the amount, and with that much, Jason's looking at least 10 years. John and Sylvie are devastated. Their son was just about to start college. They visit Jason in jail with the lawyer, who tells him that if he helps the police catch a drug dealer, they might reduce his sentence from 10 years to just 2. Jason says he doesn't know any dealers besides Craig. The lawyer asks if any of his friends buy drugs, but Jason refuses to snitch. He's angry that Craig betrayed him and doesn't want to do the same to someone else. John loses his temper and tells him he has to do it. He can't let his son spend 10 years behind bars. John then leaves and goes to see the district attorney, a woman named Pia. When they meet, she tells him she's gotten 4 calls in 1 hour about him, so clearly he knows a lot of people in town. She says she sympathizes with his son, but she believes in the law, and that everyone must face the consequences of their actions. John tells her his son isn't a dealer, just a kid who made a stupid mistake and is willing to cooperate. The only dealer he knows is Craig, and he's already in jail. Pia tells him that in that case, there's nothing she can do. The law is clear. Jason has to help them catch another dealer if he wants a reduced sentence. She says she has to go. John asks if he can help them himself instead of his son, but Pia turns him down and repeats that the law is the law. Jason is the one who has to cooperate. John leaves and goes to visit Jason in jail. When they meet, Jason shows signs of being beaten up. He tells his dad he knew there were drugs in the box and he should have refused to take them. John reassures him, saying he believes in him and knows he's not a drug dealer. He tells Jason to stay strong and protect himself inside until he can find a way to get him out. Then John drives off and starts looking for a drug dealer to turn in, hoping to reduce Jason's sentence. He ends up in a neighborhood full of dealers and tries to grab one, but the whole gang jumps him and beats him badly. They were about to kill him, but luckily a police car happened to be nearby and rescued him, taking him to the station. After leaving the police station, John goes back to see the lady, and she tells him he almost died. She says if he dies, he won't be able to help his son. But John is stubborn and determined to help his son no matter what. She tells him that if he really wants to help his son, he has to help them catch a drug dealer, but it has to be someone dealing in large quantities. John tells her he owns a company, and most of his workers were previously in prison, so he knows how to handle the situation. John leaves and goes back to his company, starts digging through employee files, and finds James's file. James had helped him before and had been arrested twice for drug distribution. After work, John follows James by car and offers to give him a ride. They go to a restaurant together, and John thanks James for agreeing to work for him and for helping him and his family. John tells him it must have been hard to find a job after prison. James thinks John invited him out to ask about his past, but John tells him he actually needs his help with something else. He wants to connect with a drug dealer and is willing to pay James $10,000. But James refuses. He says he's trying to live a clean life and stay away from drugs for the sake of his family. Just talking about this could get him locked up again. He walks out. John follows him outside and raises the offer to $20,000, but James still ignores him and leaves. When James gets home, his wife tells him she has to go to work because her manager asked her to work a shift. He tells her not to go in so late, but she says she has no choice. If she doesn't go, she'll get fired, and they need the money. The next day, John is leaving his company when he sees James waiting for him. James has changed his mind and decided to help him for the money. They head to a big-time drug dealer named Malik. John tells James he has to go in alone first, because if Malik suspects anything, he might kill them. James goes in. Turns out, he and Malik go way back. Malik asks James if he's really back in the drug business, and who the guy in the car is. James says he's just doing a favor for a friend, someone who helped him in prison. Malik agrees to meet John. John walks in, and Malik asks him what he wants. John tells him he can transport any product Malik wants and promises to keep it completely safe. Malik asks how much he can move. John says his trucks can carry half a ton, and that he knows how to trick the cops and get the shipment through easily. Malik is impressed, especially when John only asks for 15% of the cut. But Malik makes one condition: John has to deliver the first shipment himself to prove he can be trusted. Malik then asks James to stay so they can talk in private. Malik tells James he'll need to come along and monitor the deal. James refuses and says he's just the middleman. He doesn't want anything to do with what happens next. But Malik threatens to kill John if James doesn't agree. James is forced to accept. James leaves and tells John he has to join him on the first run. He also asks for the $20,000 John promised. But John refuses and says he'll give him $10,000 now and the rest after the job is done. John then goes to the district attorney's office with Agent Cooper from the DA. He has a recording of the conversation he had with Malik. Cooper tells him he's lucky he didn't get himself killed. They now have proof linking Malik to one of the most dangerous drug operations in a neighborhood called Adams District. The DA agrees to go forward with the operation, but only gives John immunity for 1 year, and only if they manage to arrest Malik. Later, John and Cooper meet again, and Cooper tells John they've planted surveillance devices in his house and truck, and that he should act naturally so no one gets suspicious. John loads up his truck and meets up with James. James tells him the delivery point is a city near the border. They arrive at what looks like a scrapyard, where gang members meet them to hand over the drugs. From a distance, Antonio, the boss of the gang that owns the drugs, is watching. The gang starts opening bags of cement from John's company and hides heroin packets inside. They reload the truck, but suddenly a shootout breaks out with a rival gang from the north. John and James jump into the truck and drive off fast. Antonio sees them escape and protects them on the way out. After the gang war ends, Antonio calls Malik. He's impressed that John kept his cool and successfully escaped with the shipment. He tells Malik he wants to do more business with John. John and James return to the company. James contacts Malik to say they've arrived. Malik then tells them the delivery location has changed and gives them a new address. John gets nervous. The change means the police plan might fall apart. He gives James his car keys and tells him to move the drugs into the car. Then he goes to his office and calls Cooper to give him the new delivery location. James, meanwhile, sees from the outside phone that someone is using the office phone. He gets suspicious. When John comes out, James asks who he called and why he didn't use his cell phone. James starts threatening him, thinking he might be working with the cops. John says he called his wife to prove he's actually working at the company. James seems to believe him, but he's still suspicious. They get in the car and head to the new drop-off point. Cooper and the DA team are already there, waiting. Cooper tells his team to wait, and only make a move after the drugs are delivered. John steps out to meet Malik. Malik tells him to unload the drugs from the car. Once he gets the drugs, he hands John the money and tells him the real boss, the supplier, wants to meet him to discuss a permanent deal. Cooper overhears this but doesn't give the order to arrest them yet. He tells his team to let them go because catching the supplier is a bigger win than taking down Malik. Malik and his crew drive off, and John is shocked. He and James head back to the company. The next day, John meets with the DA and Cooper again. He's furious that they didn't arrest Malik and his gang. Cooper explains they're trying to catch the bigger fish, the actual supplier, and that it's someone far more important than Malik. The DA asks John to be patient and to meet with them one more time so they can complete the bust. But John is frustrated and storms off. He goes back to his company and calls Sylvia. She tells him to meet her at the police station. Let me know if you want this script adapted into a professional voiceover format for a YouTube video or dubbed in conversational English for acting purposes. When John leaves the company, he sees James following him in his car. So, John heads to the police station to meet Sylvia, who tells him that their son was beaten up in prison. When she went to visit him, she was denied access because he was in the clinic. John reassures her, then leaves the station. As he's walking out, he finds James outside and asks what he was doing at the station. John tells him everything, that his son is in jail, and that he's cooperating with the police to try to reduce his sentence. James gets nervous and tells him that Malik is part of a very dangerous mafia. If they find out, they won't just kill him, they'll wipe out both of their families. James admits he's scared for his son and his family, then leaves. When James gets home, his wife finds the money he took from John and realizes he's back in the drug business. James tells her he's in serious trouble and asks her to pack up their stuff and take their son to her mother's house until things settle down. Meanwhile, John rushes home and finds his wife terrified, telling him the gang suddenly broke into the house. John tells her to go pick up their daughter from school and stay at her sister's place for now. Then John confronts Malik about why he broke into his house. Malik tells him that Antonio wants to meet. Malik takes John to see Antonio. When they arrive, Antonio's assistant tells Malik that John has to go in alone. Inside, Antonio tells John that if he works with them, he'll become part of their family, and they'll protect him and his whole family. He even mentions their names, making it clear it's a threat. Antonio says John will handle the next drug shipment alone and deliver it to Mexico. He offers $250,000 once the job is done. Antonio tells him this is a test run, and they want to pin everything on him. Then Antonio leaves. As John walks out, Antonio's assistant hands him a phone and tells him he'll get a call in 2 days with the pickup location. He also tells John that he no longer works with Malik, he now works directly for Antonio, the biggest crime boss. John leaves and meets with B and Cooper. He tells them that the gang knows his wife and daughter's names, then asks if they know about his son Jason. Turns out, Jason is registered under his mother's name. John tells them he met with someone named Antonio. When Cooper and B hear the name, they freeze. B closes the office door, clearly shaken. John notices their reaction and asks who Antonio really is. Cooper explains that Antonio is a former soldier and now a powerful Mexican mafia boss. John says he's supposed to deliver a shipment to Mexico. B guesses that if he's delivering something across the border, it's probably cash, not drugs, because laws prevent transferring large sums of money through banks. If they seize the money, it would deal a huge blow to the mafia. But Cooper is clearly worried. He pulls B aside and tells her Antonio is hard to catch, and that they have Malik in custody. Bea insists on going after Antonio and intercepting the money. Cooper warns her that if John crosses the border with the money, he's not coming back, hinting the mafia will kill him. Still, Bea is determined. Cooper walks away, and John comes in to talk to her. Bea tells John she wants to arrest Antonio and the whole gang, and sees the money going to Mexico. John sees his chance and says he'll help, but only if his son is released the same day. Bea agrees. So, John visits his son in prison. He notices Jason has clearly been beaten. John tells him he's proud he didn't betray his friends to get out. After the visit, John meets with James to thank him for not telling Malik that John was working with the police. He also asks for James's help, saying he has a plan and won't follow the police's orders blindly. Later, John receives a message with the location to pick up the money. He heads out and takes the truck. Cooper and his team are watching the truck with tracking and surveillance equipment. Midway, John stops and switches the surveillance truck with another one. Cooper panics when he realizes the truck hasn't moved for a while. He rushes to the location but finds it empty. John is gone. John then calls James, saying he needs Antonio's phone number to complete the plan. James hangs up and starts spying on Malik's gang from a house nearby. Meanwhile, John arrives at the pickup spot. Antonio's assistant shows him the money and tells him he'll be crossing the main border checkpoint. Once there, they'll give him the final destination in Mexico. Antonio's cars will follow from behind, while John drives the truck alone. At the same time, James sees some of Malik's gang outside. He takes the opportunity to kill one of them, enters the house, finds 2 more gang members and takes them out. He searches for Malik, shoots him when he finds him, and grabs his phone. He finds Antonio's number and sends it to John in a text. Meanwhile, a prison officer who had been watching John talks to someone from Antonio's gang. She says John, the guy they were asking about, has a son in prison named Jason. They tell Antonio, and he immediately realizes John is working with the police to protect his son. John calls Cooper and says he's changed the plan to make sure everything goes how he wants. He says he won't cross into Mexico and will hand the money to Antonio directly. Cooper tells him someone figured out that Jason is John's son. Then they receive the paper with Antonio's number. John tells them to trace the location and arrest him. A car chase starts between John and the gang. They shoot at him and hit his leg, but he manages to kill the driver and flip one of their cars. He calls Cooper again to confirm Jason is safe and that they've located Antonio. The police arrive at Antonio's hideout, but he's already gone. Cooper sees him on the road and alerts the other units to block the roads. Eventually, they manage to arrest Antonio. Back with John, the gang is still chasing him. One of them tries to kill him, but John rams into their car and kills them. His truck flips over. A DA officer arrives and tells him not to worry. Later, we see James meeting with Cooper, thanking him for his help. He signs some papers and is told that John gave him the reward money for capturing Antonio. Consider it a retirement bonus. The movie ends with John waiting outside the prison as James's son is released. That's where the story ends. If you enjoyed the movie, give us a like and share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.